Welcome back, YouTubers. This is Combat Handgun. I just wanted to look over a couple things here. This is a 1911, late 80s version of a Springfield Armory Defender. And what I've done is, as far as customizing, is very little. The trigger is a Vodecki trigger that I installed. Other than that, everything is bone stock. This is another 45. This is a Glock 36. Again, early, probably bought this in about the year 2000. It was one of the early ones. Never had a problem with it. It's always worked beautifully. Very few jams, etc. And those that I have had have been, without a doubt, traced to bad ammunition, like bad reloads. This 1911 has always worked. It's worked beautifully, as a matter of fact. It virtually never, ever, ever jams. It always works. It feeds everything and anything. It's a Springfield Armory, 1911 A1. Somebody told me it was a Defender model, but I just checked the box. It is not, but nonetheless, it works perfectly. The Glock 36 is a controversial Glock in that it's a single column 45, only holds 6 rounds in the magazine, plus 1, of course, in the chamber, which I always do. Some people have had a lot of problems with them. I have not. I've had no problems whatsoever with it. I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. Let's talk about the difference between the 1911 and the Glock design. They happen to be my two favorite designs of all time, for very different reasons. The 1911 was, of course, designed in the early 1900s, adopted by the military in 1911, late March of 1911, if memory serves. Designed by John M. Browning of Utah, a true certified genius, no question about that. It is a difficult gun to manufacture. There are a lot of little parts in it that have to be machined perfectly. That doesn't mean it can't be done. It doesn't mean that it's not a great gun, but it is expensive to produce. It's not unusual nowadays to see a custom gun going for anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. Hello, I can't afford that. This was about, as I recall, about $550. This was in the late 80s. The trigger was probably like 25 bucks. Now this, on the other hand, is the product of a new generation. This is a design that has revolutionized firearms forever. Let's compare them. This, of course, is steel. The frame is steel, the slide is steel, barrel steel, obviously. Every part of the gun has to be machined perfectly. The internal parts, the sear, the recoil spring guide, the barrel bushing, the barrel to slide fit, all are done pretty much by hand even to this day, which is why it's not unusual to find a $3,000 custom price on a 1911. And that's all well and good, and it's probably my favorite gun of all time. But let's face it, $3,000, $2,500, $2,000, even $1,000 is a lot. I was very pleased to see Ruger recently introduce their SR 1911 for a retail price of about $700. I have not shot one yet. I'd like to. In fact, I want to buy one, but that's down the road. They are using modern casting and MIM techniques which allow them to produce the gun for less money than a lot of people can, and yet it's still a quality gun. This, on the other hand, is the product of late 70s, early 80s technology, a polymer frame. It had been done before, but never to this degree. When the Glock first came out, when it was first introduced in the early 80s, late 70s, people, including myself, said, well, a polymer frame will never hold up. No way. It'll disintegrate. It'll be beaten to death. Wrong. Completely wrong, though, as we've said. I love both of these designs for different reasons. I love this because it's a classic. This goes back 100 years. It is still arguably the finest combat handgun ever made. It's an incredible piece of machining. It works. It still works to this day. The tilting barrel, the sear, everything about it, the light trigger pull, crisp trigger pull is something that's very difficult to have in any other design, and I love it. It also looks badass. Let's face it. Let's be honest. The 1911 looks nasty, and I love it for that. The Glock, on the other hand, and this is, of course, a different sized gun. This is a combat. This is a smaller handgun, a more concealable handgun than the 1911 is. Although they make a full-size one, the Model 21, and also the Model 30, which is a double-stacked version of this. An incredible design that has stood the test of time and is now the most copied design in the world. When it came out, nobody would have thought that a polymer design frame, even a polymer pin back here, would have held up to the repeated pressure of handgun rounds, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 357 SIG, and 45, etc. It has. In fact, it's thrived. There are many, many tales of this gun having gone well over 200,000, 250,000 rounds with only a recoil spring replacement or maybe a trigger spring replacement. Amazing. These are the two best designs, in my opinion, of all time. The 1911 is the most amazing in the sense that, can you imagine any other product today, say a car, that was designed 100 years ago, not 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, that's still around? No. If you saw somebody drive a Model T down the street, you would say, isn't that cute or isn't that quaint? But you wouldn't say, wow, that's cool, or that looks great. This gun to this day is still used by tactical squads, SWAT teams, and so forth, and still works today. And this, on the other hand, is a much more modern design. That doesn't make it better, it just means it's different. And they are both wonderful firearms. The 36, this time with magazine installed, although the chamber is empty. The 36 is my favorite carry gun. It's a 45, obviously. It's 6+1, 7 rounds. Not a lot, but on the other hand, when you look at this, the original design is 7+1, and that was if you decided to carry it cocked and locked, which is, in my opinion, a fully viable way to do it, but some people find it weird or disturbing. So you're only gaining 1 round, but you're gaining a whole lot of weight. This is a very heavy gun, all steel. Yes, there are other versions of it available, including the lightweight Commander aluminum model, which came out in 1950. One of my favorites, by the way, but still very expensive. This runs for about $550 or so retail. It did even years ago. It still does today. Price has not changed really very much at all, despite the fact that we've had inflation in every other area. It's still reasonably priced and affordable for most people. This gun today would probably go for about, I'm guessing, $800 or $900. And of course, if you did anything else to it, holy moly, would it go up fast. Wonderful guns, both of them, very different, and yet they both get the job done. Till next time, Combat Handguns saying goodbye.